a second, I need to get my story straight. My friends are in the bathroom getting higher than the Empire State. My lover, she is waiting for me just across the bar. My seat's been taken by some sunglasses asking about a scar. And I know I gave it to you months ago. I know you're trying to forget, but between the drinks and subtle things, the holes in my apologies, you know, I'm trying hard to take it back. So if by the time the bar closes and you feel like falling down, I'll carry you home tonight. We are young, so let's set the world on fire. We can burn brighter than the sun tonight. We are young, so let's set the world on fire. We can burn brighter than the sun. Now I know that I'm not all that you got. I guess that I just thought maybe we could find new ways to fall apart. But our friends are back, so let's raise a toast. 'Cause I found someone to carry me home tonight. We are young, so let's set the world on fire. We can burn brighter than the sun tonight. We are young, so let's set the world on fire. We can burn brighter than the sun. Coming home tonight. Just coming home tonight. Coming home tonight. Just coming home tonight. The moon is on my side. I have no reason to run. So will someone come and carry me home tonight? The angels never arrive, but I can hear the choir. So will someone come and carry me home tonight? We are young, so let's set the world on fire. We can burn brighter than the sun tonight. We are young, so let's set the world on fire. We can burn brighter than the sun. So if by the time the bar closes and you feel like falling down, I'll carry you home tonight.
Coming to you live on the air.
And ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, cats and kittens, welcome back to the podcast. Thank you. I find myself very mellow, Very mellow on these morning streams anymore. The podcast is your home for rational crypto news and objectivity, leaving emotion at the door, talking about what we like, why we like it, and where we see it going. We are not offering financial advice. We are telling you what we do, and that is all. We don't slow down. We don't let up. Full speed is our only speed. I'm your host, Scott, pragmatic investor who has won and lost fortunes. Joining me, I don't even think Bell's here today. I haven't gotten a single message from her on Discord this morning. But joining me, as always, the greatest producer of all time, the one, the only, the original, the mighty Bell. And let's go ahead and give it up for Bell. I'm also a libertarian. I'm a very, very hardcore, all the way down. Government is too big. We need to stop this madness. Kind of libertarian. So, while I would love to discuss crypto today, and I'm going to get to it, but we got a little bit of a red candle over here on Bitcoin, so everybody's in pucker mode again. But I think it's important that we stick around the big picture and everything that's going on right now in the federal government, because in the United States federal government, because if you ignore that, you are going to ignore that to your own peril, because this is kind of what drives markets. And right now there's an incredible amount of uncertainty that's actually happening up there in the federal government, with a lot of agencies on the chopping block, and finding the fraud, finding the ways, finding the abuse. It's not the fraud that concerns me as much, because I don't expect much better from our Congress critters. People don't go into politics now to try to change anything. They go into politics because they want in on the grift. These are people that could not really be terribly successful where they are. So sure, let's go into politics. We can get up, we can get up there. We can lead. We're incapable of doing it out in the civilian world, but if you got the face, you got the voice, you have the establishments that are backing you up, odds are real good you can get elected. And when you get elected, then you can go up there and then you're in. You're part of the club. And that's really all that matters. We used to have the wealthy. We used to have the wealthy, the middle class, and the poor. But the governing class is kind of the new thing. And we've created this ourselves. I mean, for all intents and purposes, we have a monarchy. These their children don't go to the same schools as your child. And I'm not ginning up class warfare by any means. I'm just pointing things out. But their children don't associate with your children. Their children are going to have the ins and the handshakes and everything necessary for them to be successful, with very little effort on their part, because people are just trading favors back and forth. Sure, I'll make sure that you get this, but I have a niece that's looking for a job. Maybe there's a lobbying group that she can get on with, and that's just kind of how it rolls. But the uncertainty that's going on right now is because Donald Trump and kind of just let Elon Musk just go nuts up there. He said, look, find the fraud, find out where it is, and let's kind of trim this budget down a little bit. It's important. It is critically important that this happens, but I'm not sure it can. So it harkens me back to the United States Constitution. I carry pocket constitutions in my truck. They're $1. I get them from the Heritage Foundation, and I'll order like 100 at a time. And I just hand them out to people. Hey, here's the Constitution. Knock yourself out. Everything that you need to know about the governing and the limits of powers. It's right here. It's not even a real difficult read. It doesn't take a whole hell of a lot of effort to read the United States Constitution. And for the most part, it doesn't have to be explained to you. But we've gone so far past the original intent of the Constitution and the limits of powers on government. We've gone so far past all of that people have been effectively institutionalized. And the only way that you can do anything is when you have government approval. So now there's a difference. I'm not talking about state governments. State governments, that's a whole different animal. Each state has its own constitution. Iowa has a constitution. Each state is set to govern itself because we are a republic. And we had a federal government that was basically there to regulate and settle disputes between the states. That was the original intent. And it was spelled out really, really well in Article 1, Section 8 of the United States Constitution. And I said, let's talk about that, because right now everybody's losing their mind over like USAID and the Department of Education, Federal Department of Education, all these federal agencies that are kind of on the chopping block. And I thought it'd be fun to just go through Article 1 to Section 8, because this is the definition of the legislative branch. This is what they are supposed to do, and these are the limits of their powers. But we've gotten away from that so much that it's almost not even fun. It's so far removed from where it was that even if I read this verbatim, what it says, it's going to go not past a lot of people, but it's not going to be well received. And we're almost going to look at it and hear it and say, well, this is madness. How can we do this when the government is limited like this? So let's just go ahead and go through them. Now, this is the powers that are directly delegated to the federal government, to the federal legislative branch, not the states. We are a republic. We keep saying we're a democracy. We might follow a democratic process, but we're a republic. That means laws or things that may be passed in Iowa are not Kentucky. They have no bearing on the state of Kentucky or Alabama. It doesn't matter. This is an Iowa thing. Now, states have we have a little bit of reciprocity. For example, marriage licenses. If you're married in Iowa, you're married in Alabama, even though the license is signed by the state of Iowa. But concealed carry permits are not reciprocal between states. So it's just kind of funny how we pick and choose. But let's go ahead and fire this up a little bit. So Clause 1, and this is a real important one because there is so much bullshit that goes on around this. But this is Clause 1. The Congress shall have power to lay and collect taxes, duties, imposts, and excises, to pay the debts and provide for the common defense and the general welfare of the United States. But all duties, imposts, and excises shall be uniform throughout the United States. So as far as, the federal government has no right to tax you, it absolutely does. I mean, it's there. Whether I like it or not, whether I agree with it or not, it doesn't really matter. It's there. Now, if it bothers you so much and you want all that cleaned out, you understand that there's a process. All right. The Constitution has been amended many, many times. There is absolutely a process. So if you want it changed, you go ahead and follow it and see how it goes. But up until you actually do that, it says what it says. It says that they can lay and collect taxes. Article 1, Section 8, Clause 1. That's what we just read. Clause 2, to borrow money on the credit of the United States. That's it. That's the entirety of it. Now, looking back in hindsight, you might have said, well, maybe we should have put a limit on this. Maybe there were a lot of different things that we should have done. But the way it's written is to borrow money on the credit of the United States. So the federal government has full authority and autonomy to borrow all they want. It says it right there. If you would like to change it, go ahead and change it. The debt ceiling was brought in, but now it's more or less a guideline. So we're way past that now, particularly with $36 trillion in debt. So in hindsight, I would have looked back on that and say, yeah, maybe put a limit on that. Maybe just say, okay, you can borrow it, but it's got to be paid back this fiscal year or something like that. There were a lot of things that they could have done that they didn't do. But as it is right now, that's what it says. Clause 3. To regulate commerce with foreign nations and among the several states and with the Indian tribes. That's what it says. Now, that one has been bastardized to hell and gone because we managed to come back and make everything about commerce. So, for example, even corn that's grown in Iowa that never leaves the state of Iowa is going to fall under the Commerce Clause because it really was not specific enough the way it was written. And you get a bunch of people up there that want power, and you get a bunch of lawyers that can argue things, and you get a bunch of activist judges that say we need more federal government oversight on this. And the next thing you know, corn grown in Iowa that never leaves the state of Iowa still falls under the Interstate Commerce Clause because the corn itself may be turned into another product that leaves the state. I mean, it's absolute madness, but it does say what it says. And if you don't challenge Governments will take all the power that you will give them. And up till now, we have pretty much just pushed all of it over to the federal government and just call it the Interstate Commerce Clause. So it sucks, but it is what it is. Clause 4, to establish a uniform rule of naturalization and uniform laws on the subject of bankruptcies throughout the United States. To establish a uniform rule of naturalization. So as far as people coming into this country, that is still purview of the federal government to establish a uniform rule of naturalization. Now, we have these laws. We have naturalization laws. We have a process, but we don't really follow it, and we don't really care. Now, I could argue my side of this and just say, sure, it's a lot of the left-leaning people. It's in their interest to have as many voters as possible. And the easiest way to generate voters is to let people in and then reward them for it. That's an open border and a welfare state. That's what we have right now. And when you have that, then you have states like California saying no ID is required to vote. Just show up, fog a mirror, and you get to vote. So following their own laws as opposed to just establishing laws on the side on naturalization are wildly different things. They let it go because we don't do anything about it. All right, that's you. That's me. We don't do anything about it. We say it's too big. There's nothing that we can do, so just go ahead and let it go. Clause 5, to coin money, regulate the value thereof and of foreign coin, and fix the standard of weights and measures. Now, that's an actual department, the Department of Weights and Measures, that is literally in Article 1, Section 8, the Department of Weights and Measures. I don't think anybody's ever really had an issue with the Department of Weights and Measures. The little stamp, every time you go to get gas, there's a little stamp sitting there right on that gas pump that says this thing has been calibrated, that if you purchase a gallon of gas comes out of it. This is kind of the purview of the Department of Weights and Measures. And in something like this, I happen to fully agree with this because I want to make sure that the gallon of gas that I buy in Alabama is the same weight and the same amount that I get over in California. So Department of Weights and Measures. And throughout my life, and I've been doing politics for a long, long time, I don't think I've ever heard anybody have any beef with the Department of Weights and Measures because we all recognize that this is something that needs to really be uniform throughout the country. So if states want to establish one, they can, but Clause 5 gives that power to the federal government. And it's kind of funny that when they actually are doing something that they're authorized to do, they may not do it supremely well, but nobody really has a beef with it. Clause 6. To provide for the punishment of counterfeiting the securities and current coin of the United States. This is another one. Nobody has any beef with this. As people counterfeit money and it gets out into the system, it devalues every single dollar that you have in your pocket. Now, one could make an argument on that. Well, the feds are just printing willy-nilly. They are. All right. And I do have a problem with that. But there's no particular there's no particular clause in here that reins that in. They do have that authority to do it. We can get into the argument of inflation, and inflation is caused by the federal government, period. They are the ones that control the money supply. They are the ones that can punish people counterfeiting it. They are the ones who have the complete choke on that. So as more money is in the system, which causes inflation, that can only be put out by people counterfeiting it or by the government printing it. That is it. And we could have that argument all day. Clause 7, to establish post offices and post roads. Benjamin Franklin, first Postmaster General of the United States. The idea behind this, the post office, even though it's kind of dated now, I mean, with modern technology and all that. I mean, God, who sends letters? Christmas, maybe. But it's in there to establish post offices and post roads. The issue with that is it got blown completely out of proportion from what it should have been to what we have now, which is a giant bloated behemoth of an agency. But Clause 7 does not say It can only have this many post offices. It can only have this many postmen. It can only have this. It doesn't say any of that. To establish post offices and post roads. Now, if you have a problem with that, that is an excellent axe to grind. You want to get up into Congress so that we can start to rein in the United States Post Office. That's a good axe to grind. That's something that you can do. That would be a reason to go into Congress. That would be a good reason to try to get up into that leadership so that you can talk to these people and point out, look, it is losing money year over year over year. It is a bloated organization, and what it used to do, it no longer does, aside from just delivering mail. But I honestly believe that you could shrink this by 50%, and it really wouldn't be a burden on too many people. So that would be a good axe to grind. It's not one I'm going to take up because I really don't care, but it's in there. And nobody really has a beef with it. Aside from the size and the scope and the scale, nobody has a particular beef with the United States Post Office. We're all recognize that this is something that was necessary for throughout the entirety of this country. And until it's changed, it's still in there. Clause 7. Now, Clause 8. To promote the progress of science and useful arts by securing for limited times to authors and inventors the exclusive right to their respective writings and discoveries. Those are called patents. That's the United States Patent Office. Now, this is another one that people just don't have issues with. You could see Trump up there and what he's doing right now. You could see where Elon Musk is looking and what they're doing right now. But they're not going after the post office. They're not going after the Department of Weights and Measures. They're not going after the U.S. Patent Office. They're not doing any of these things because they are literally in Article 1, Section 8. If we did not have patents, there would be one hell of a problem in this country. They recognize that way back there in the 1700s. They recognize that creators and inventors need to have exclusive right to the things that they're doing. If they don't, then innovation completely stagnates, because what's the point of me doing this, making this, creating this, writing this, if anybody can just sit there and profit on my efforts? But that one's not leaving. That one's not getting attacked. Clause 9. To constitute tribunals inferior to the Supreme Court. Now, this gets off the rails in kind of a big way, and we can see it with the lawfare that's going on right now. We're going to end up right now. There's a couple of really, really heavy activist judges that are dropping edicts on the executive branch saying, you can't do this. I order you to stop, and this is what you have to do now. Nobody elected the judges. That's kind of the kicker. Now, the judges were appointed, but they certainly weren't elected. Nobody voted for that. They are just people that are put in. They tend to be activist judges, either far left or far right. They're appointed by whoever the executive happens to be at this time, whether it be Republican and Democrat. And once they get in, they stay in. So this is where we're kind of getting into right now, and this is specifically the reason that I'm discussing this. There was a great quote. I had to put it on my phone. I don't know it. I don't remember it verbatim, but I wanted to write it down because it comes way, way back to the 7th president of the United States, Andrew Jackson. So there was kind of a thing that went on. I'm not going to get into all of it. This is not really the show for that one. But Andrew Jackson, his quote is very, very famous. And the reason that I'm mentioning it is because you may or may not be starting to hear something about this. Andrew Jackson said, Justice Marshall has made his decision. Now let him enforce it. And that means without the assent of the executive branch to execute the decisions handed down by these judges, by the judicial branch, the latter, it really has no power. So the judge can hand down whatever he wants. He can form any opinion that he wants. And they did that to Jackson, and Jackson basically said, great, now enforce it. Because you don't really have an army. You don't really have your own private police force that's going to go and enforce whatever edicts you hand down. That's not going to happen. So that was Andrew Jackson's complete meaning on that. He was like, look, I'm still going to do what you ruled. I'm still going to do what I want. Raise an army and stop me. I'm not agreeing with that. I'm just saying that this is what happened. Now, Stalin, you know how I go to Stalin after that? He was a little bit less subtle. How many divisions has the Pope? That's what Stalin said when the Pope was leaning on him to do this or do that. And Stalin basically said, great, how big's your army? Oh, you don't have one? All right, I'm just going to go ahead and carry on and do my own thing. But this is getting into lawfare now. Now, Clause 9, it does say that we can have upper courts, lower courts, Supreme Courts. We have Supreme Courts in the states. We have district courts. We have city courts. We have all of these things, and we can do all of that. But when you get it bloated to the point where we are, and you make laws and people kind of accept that something is just and right simply because it is a law, then you start to take power away from where it should be and putting it into other areas. We have three branches of government. We have the executive, we have the judicial, and we have the legislative. And it works as long as everybody stays in their lane. But when one side starts getting over, and in this case, it would be the judicial branch that's starting to infringe on the executive branch, then that nice, easy, perfect little floor we have starts to tip. And when it starts to tip, we lose focus and we lose what is actually right, what is proper, and we start to forget about that. So it's going to be interesting seeing how this works out. And trust me, I am paying attention to this. Clause 10, to define and punish piracies and felonies committed on the high seas and offenses against the law of nations. I don't think anybody has a problem with that. Hang pirates. We have been doing that as long as mankind has been civilized. We've been hanging pirates. And Clause 10 basically says, yeah, you keep doing that. All right, you can dial it in, define and punish piracies, and you kind of got a little bit of you got a little license in how you do it. But it specifically says, yep, you go ahead and get pirates, and it kind of leans into the next couple clauses. Clause 11, to declare law, grant letters of marque and reprisal, and make rules concerning captures on land and water. To declare war. To declare war. Now, that one is also very, very important because it's not terribly well defined. Who can declare war? Now, I understand that this is for the legislative branch, so it would seem to me that that would be Congress that declares war. There's a lot of license. People have done this over and over. Presidents, due to the time it took to assemble Congress, presidents were basically given 60 days. I declare war. Congress comes in and says, we will keep it going or we're going to shut it down. Specifically for that, because it took a long time to get Congress together. It was never a full-time job. Now it's a full-time job. But yes, that power rests specifically with the legislative branch, according to Article 1, Section 8. Clause 12. To raise and support armies, but no appropriation of money to that use shall be for a longer term than 2 years. The military budget, the defense budget, always happens every 2 years, regardless of if we have an actual budget. It doesn't matter. This has to be approved every 2 years, and every single 2 years we get into this infighting. Yes, we'll pass it, but we need some bridges in Kansas. Yes, we will vote for this, but we need a little help over here. So everybody poison pills this thing to death over and over and over, and then they politicize it. So I'm asking you for $100 billion, and I'll make sure that I vote for the defense spending bill. I'm asking for $100 billion, but I'll actually take 8. But, everybody, you start high and you bargain your way down. So it happens every 2 goddamn years. It's never going to stop. And that one is because of Clause 12. That's why we do it every 2 years. Clause 13, which I actually find kind of interesting, to provide and maintain a navy. Clause 13, to provide and maintain a navy. Armies are every 2 years. Clause 13 says to provide and maintain a navy. Now, there's a few reasons for that. Ships aren't just built, all right? It takes time to put these things together. It takes time to train crews. It takes time to make this an efficient fighting force. And it is something that is used always. Piracy. You're going to need ships to protect your coasts constantly. Not every 2 years, every year, constantly. You're going to need ships out there. So the fact that Clause 12 and Clause 13 are separated is really, really interesting to me. But I happen to agree with that one because you can't just whip out a Navy. All right. Once a Navy is built, the Navy has to be maintained. Clause 13 says that it can. Clause 14, to make rules for the government and regulation of the land and naval forces. Now, that's why we have UCMJ, Uniform Code of Military Justice. It comes right from there, right from Clause 14. We don't exactly fall under the Constitution directly when we're in the United States military. We fall under what's called the Uniform Code of Military Justice. And that is really, really interesting because anybody who's ever in the service knows that if you fuck up in town and you get popped by the locals and you get arrested, you do time, whatever, you're still not out of the military. And as soon as you're done with your time, the military gets you now. And now you fall under the UCMJ, and we're going to punish you again. There is no double jeopardy in this case because of your oath that says, I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. But we also agree to follow the Uniform Code of Military Justice. So if you get popped in town, you're going to do your time out there, and then you're going to come back and the military gets you. Now the military gets you, and you're going to do time again. It sucks. Our standing orders is or our unwritten rule is if you screw up in town, get to the base. You get to the base. let the Navy get you first, and then because it's probably going to go better for you. So yeah, get to the base because now you're under UCMJ, and local authorities have no particular stroke inside of the gates. Anyway. Clause 15, to provide for calling forth the militia to execute the laws of the Union, suppress insurrections, and repel invasions. That's pretty clear. And I don't think anybody really argues that one. In times of war, we're screwed. Standing army, this is before we really had standing armies, but it allowed the government to call up the militia. And the militia, I think, is anybody between the ages, any male between the ages of like 14 and 50. If they call up the militia, everybody's going. I mean, that's it. Everybody's going. Welcome. If you don't, everything's gone. So do what you got to do. Clause 16, to provide for organizing, arming, and disciplining the militia, and for governing such part of them as may be employed in the service of the United States, reserving to the states respectively the appointment of the officers and the authority of training the militia according to the discipline prescribed by Congress. So Congress says this is what you should do, and then it's up to the states. These are the National Guards. These are the state guards. That's literally right where it comes from. Now, the federal government is not saying that Iowa has to have a state guard. It's just saying if they do have a state guard, these are some of the rules that you have to follow. The officers will be appointed by the states, not the feds. The states will appoint their own officers over their state guards. Right there in the Constitution. It's pretty cool. Clause 17. To exercise exclusive legislation in all cases whatsoever over such district not exceeding 10 miles square as may, by cession of particular states and the acceptance of Congress, become the seat of the government of the United States, and to exercise like authority over all places purchased by the consent of the legislator of the state in which the same shall be for the erection of forts, magazines, arsenals, dockyards, and other needful buildings. Now, that is establishing the District of Columbia. I'm sorry, that's establishing D.C. That's at 10 square miles. They are their very own thing. They're not a state, but they are their very own thing, and it's spelled out very, very specifically right there in Clause 17. This is what you can do. Now, all the rest of that, these are federal armories. These are federal bases. They purchase the land from the state, and the feds have jurisdiction over those. Not all of them, not the state guards, but all of the federal bases. Fort Bragg, Fort Benning, Naval Base San Diego. These are all federal things. And they are specifically laid out in Clause 17. So there you go. Now, here's where it goes completely off the rails, and this is where we lost everything. This is the implied power. The final clause of Article 1, Section 8, necessary and proper clause, is a source of implied power of Congress. Clause 18, to make all laws which shall be necessary and proper for carrying into execution the foregoing powers, and all other powers vested by this Constitution in the government of the United States or in any department or officer thereof. And that's where we went completely off the rail, is necessary and proper. Now, Article 10th Amendment to the Constitution lays it out very, very clear. All powers not specifically delegated to the federal government shall be left to the states or the people respectively. So the necessary and proper clause seems to contradict everything that's done in the 10th Amendment. 18, specific enumerated powers. This is what the federal government can do. Now, in that, which we just read it verbatim, I didn't see a Department of Education. I don't consider the Department of Education, Federal Department of Education, to be necessary or proper. I don't see a Department of Energy, Federal Department of Energy, being necessary or proper. We have these in the states, which regulate themselves, which set their own laws, which have their independence from the federal government. So while I see the headsman's axe up there just swinging away at all of these departments and all these federal people that are going to lose their jobs, you should have never had one in the first place. But if you have all of this extensive experience and your job is so important, go back to your state. Go back to your state and join the Iowa Department of Education because we have one. Join the New York Department of Education because they have one. That's what they're doing. This is what they are doing because these things have become so bloated and they effectively do nothing except dole out money to the states as long as you bend the knee to the Fed. They never had this authority. They should have never had this authority. They took it and nobody said anything about it. Then it became a thing. Then it became, without a federal Department of Education, there is no education. Here's a little fun one. I don't think I have anybody listening right now. When did the Federal Department of Education come into being? What year did the Federal Department of Education when was it actually created? Because if you stick with the fallacy of division argument, which this is what we live on out here, up until that very date, there was no education. There simply was no education in the United States because we didn't have a Department of Education. So I want you to think about that one for a minute. Anyway, like I said, I'm not sure if Bell's listening or if anybody's even listening here at all. This is very, very passionate stuff for me. This is my wheelhouse, babe. This is what I do. This is what I like to do. And we'll get into crypto, and we're going to have some fun with that. But I just wanted to explain this or put out, this is the way that I see it. I'm not trying to educate anybody. You're all very intelligent people. You can read it the same as I can read it, and your takeaways are going to be different than mine. But I just wanted to let you know where I was coming from so that you can understand where my future arguments are going to be directed and why they're going to be directed that way. Anyway, another song. Let's go ahead and play another song. I'll check my boards. I'll see if we actually have any comments. I don't think I will today. But yeah, if you are joining me and you've stuck around this long, I certainly appreciate it, man. This is very, very important to me. All of this is It matters, and it really, really matters to me. So I appreciate you indulging me. But let's go ahead and get to a song. I don't know which song is next. I don't have anything. I just hit play. So hope you enjoy it. Hope it's a good one, and we will be right back, guys.
afraid to lose control and caught up in this world. I've wasted time, I've wasted breath. I think I've thought myself to death. I was born without this fear, now only this seems clear. I need to move, I need to fight, I need to lose myself tonight. Walk with me now, I'm gonna take you down. Walk with me now, I'm gonna show you how. I think with my heart and I move with my head. I open my mouth and it's something I've read. I've stood at the door before I'm told, but a part of me knows that I'm growing too old. Confused what I thought was something I felt, confused what I feel was something that's real. I tried to sell my soul last night, honey, you wouldn't even take a bite. Far away, I heard him say, come with me now, don't delay. I heard him say, come with me now. Far away, I heard him say, come with me now. Walk with me now, I'm gonna take you down. Walk with me now, I'm gonna show you how. Afraid to lose control, caught up in this world. I've wasted time, I've wasted breath. I think I've thought myself to death. I was born without this fear, now only this seems clear. I need to move, I need to fight, I need to lose myself tonight. Walk with me now. Walk with me now, I'm gonna take you down. Walk with me now.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, cats and kittens, welcome back to the podcast. I put on my headphones because I like the songs too. So did I even hit it right? There we go. Yeah, man, I appreciate it. Couple comments. Like I said, we don't really pack them in anymore. We got to wait for crypto to get better, or I have to get a lot more aggressive over on my political channel to get people over here to see what I'm doing in the morning. So we'll do one of those things. Something like that is going to happen. From Political, morning bud, headache is strong this morning, but I'm still alive and watching. I appreciate it. Jeff's kind of a fellow libertarian, so he and I have some very, very interesting political discussions. For me, it all goes back to Allegory of the Cave, man. That's it. If you haven't read your Plato's Republic, do yourself a favor. He absolutely nailed it. Lots of movies have been based on that, by the way. The Matrix itself was based on the Allegory of the Cave. It's just easily the most recognizable one, but I read that. I read that when I was young. Well, I was like 12 or 13 years old, and I got it. I was like, oh, I'll be damned. So it's nice because it gives you a lot of clarity of people's interpretation, and that's what we live on right now is people's interpretation. And the worst mistake that we ever made is that we simply cannot tell somebody that they're wrong. You can't do that. Well, that's the way they see it, and that's the way it is, and perception is reality and all that shit. But it may be your perception, but you're fucking wrong. So there you go. Dave Smith, I like it. I appreciate it. Bud, league champ. I am the league champ. I am the league champion, by the way. The king got me over, man. Baker Mayfield, Mike Evans, and Derrick Henry. That's it. That's what got me over everything. And I got a couple 50 burgers out of We got a couple 50 burgers out of Baker Mayfield. When you're getting 50 points out of your quarterback, you will be league champ. Gustav, the moves that President Trump is doing gives him the appearance of a libertarian. I don't know. I don't know if he's a libertarian or if he's just pretending to be a libertarian. I don't know. It's almost an oxymoron that a libertarian would want to be president. It's the whole idea behind, at least my version of being a libertarian, is I want government away from me. I don't want them in my life. I get it. Look at all the good things they do for you. But when I'm saying libertarian, I'm meaning federal government. And we've gotten so far away from what the intent and the purpose of the federal government, we've gotten so far away from that it just makes me go harder and harder and harder into the libertarian camp. Everything that I'm getting taxed for, everything that we're paying for, I'm doing it through the state as well. I am not an anarchist. We need government. We need small, local, limited government. Right now, I can't even change the toilet in my house, my property. I can't go out and purchase one unless it has a government stamp on it that says, yes, you can use this toilet or you can't. All right, that is a boot on the neck of every single human out here, is the fact that you need permission to alter your own real estate, property, things that you own. If I want to dig a well, I need approval to dig a goddamn well. So I'm going to stick with the state, and I'm a huge fan of republics. I'm going to stick with the state. So what is Trump doing up there? I don't know. I don't know. Is he a libertarian? I'd be going a lot harder. I'll just kind of leave it right there. Trump is being incredibly mild, and there's a reason why somebody like me will never ever be president, because you have no idea the wrecking ball I'd bring down on them. As soon as those judges passed those orders, I would have absolutely went Andrew Jackson. I would have literally went over to Twitter and said, "Great, now you enforce it." That would have been it. Not a threat. Just a fact. Great. You made your decision. Now enforce it. That's what I would have been doing. Now, Trump's not going to do that. He does have some political savvy, but that's what I would do. And once you have drawn that very line in the sand, everything changes. Everything changes completely. And you're going to really, really find out who your allies are or who they're not. So maybe I'll kind of leave it there. From Divergent Dan, is Jackal American or Canadian or neither? It's Canadian. I would say that it's Canadian. I don't know. I know they're a corporation. I don't know where they're actually where their corporation is formed. I think Waterloo. I think it's Waterloo or Ontario or something like that. But I would argue that they are a Canadian company. The CEO is Canadian. The CTO is Canadian. Most of their staff is Canadian. So I would say that it's probably a Canadian company. Now, if Trump actually sees through what he's doing, what he said he was going to do, that any American crypto products are not going to be, there's no capital gains taxes on American products. Watch how quick that starts to swing down there. The Jackal starts to migrate over into America, becomes a Delaware C Corp or something like that, because that's a big number. Capital gains, eliminating capital gains tax from your business is a big number. So, yeah, but right now I want to say that they are, they're Canadian. From Divergent Dan, did you buy your sign off Tony the Sign Guy? He is awesome. No, I got it. We Make Signs, one of those kind of things. I just went on and I Googled, how do I get a sign like this? And I went to the first, whoever was at the top of the fold, and they did a good job. I like it. I see that my lighting is getting off on a little bit on a couple of the colors, but I like it. I like the sign. From Mad Scientist, I appreciate you. Hash flyer is what you need. Yeah, maybe. Maybe. Let's see. Sign is off behind you. D. Jenny, thank you. And Jenny from the blockchain, this is why I love your show. You make me think differently. I'm not trying to change anybody's opinion on anything, man. Who the fuck am I to tell you this is what you should be thinking, man? I do not have that kind of ego. I just do this and put it out to tell you this is what I'm thinking. This is my direction. This is my interpretation. This is my perception. And in this case, my perception is reality. Now, I happen to be right on everything just because I'm such a clever guy. But I'm not trying to change anybody's mind. I just think it's important to have the discussions because right now, the bulk of everything is driven by Twitter nonsense. And it is so fallacy of division all the way through. There's an awful lot of illogical fallacies. Fallacy of division happens to be my favorite. If you don't know what the fallacy of division is, let me give you an example. Fallacy of division states that if any single phrase, sentence, or part of an entirety of a discussion is true, therefore, all of it must be true. And I'll give you a perfect example. I think we can all agree or disagree. A jet plane can fly from New York to Paris. I would argue that that is true. A jet plane has jet engines. I would also argue that that's true. It's literally in the name. A jet engine can fly from New York to Paris. Now, anybody listening to those three sentences right there, rationally and objectively, would say the first two are true and the third is bollocks. The third is just absolute horseshit. A jet engine cannot fly from New York to Paris, and any reasonable person would happen to agree with that. But when you wrap it up into the illogical fallacy of division, you can make the argument any damn way. Yes, but the jet engine wouldn't even exist if it wasn't for something like jet planes. And that makes sense to people. Yes, people wanted jet planes, therefore they invented the jet engine. There's lots of different ways that you can spin this. But because of that, it gets all wrapped up into single little sound bites or easily digestible short paragraphs that people can see this, and it feathers into their confirmation bias. Trump is a tyrant. Trump is a Nazi. Hitler had a mustache. Trump at one time had a mustache. Therefore, Trump is Hitler. That's the fallacy of division. And it is used endlessly out here, just absolutely endlessly. It is horseshit. You know it is. I know it is. But these are the things that have 3.2 million views. These are the things that have thousands and thousands and thousands of comments. These are the things that feed the algorithms and get these statements out to more and more people. Something that I type, just pointing out the fallacy of division, is not going to go anywhere because either people don't know or people simply don't care. So the only way that I can get out really what I want to do and what I want to say and how I want to say it is to do it via video. And that's why we continue to do this. It's also kind of why we really, I blew it. I blew it with you guys, man. We used to have a pretty dedicated group, that were watching the show, that were really, really engaged with us. And I blew it. I just kind of said, no, I don't want to do what worked. I want to change. I want to evolve. I want to turn this into something bigger and better than what it started as. And nobody came with us. So it's too late now. We blew it. So we'll have to try to find a new way to get this back. From General Allos, Belle, don't delete my comments. I don't think Belle's on. I have not yet gotten a single message from her over on Discord. So no, I don't think Belle's actually on with us right now. We do have the comment trap set on the channel for excessive vulgarity and things like that. It's going to go ahead and nix it. It won't let you post links, things like that, things that could be harmful to other people out there. So we do have that moderation set on, but that's automatic. I don't think it's Belle. Belle really doesn't delete comments, man. We're not here for that. And yeah, I see the follow on freedom of speech. Now, one can make the argument that this is the podcast, and I determine what is freedom of speech. But we don't do that. If you've got something you want to say, you want to call me whatever name you want to. You want to point out everywhere that I'm wrong. Please feel free to do that. We encourage that. That is discussion. That is debate. That is you giving me your viewpoint and me retorting. This is the way that it should be. Reasonable discussion. So, no, we really don't take them down. We don't really take any comments down, but there is the auto moderation, and that might have done it. D. Jenny from the blockchain, is The Matrix a top 5 film of all time? I don't know. It might be. It's certainly one of my favorites. The first Matrix. the one that was effectively a video version of the allegory of the cave. That one was, if it's not a top 5, boy, it really should be, man. It was just an excellent movie, excellent actors. They just told a story, and it was good. Part 2, part 3, boy, that got sketchy. And part 4, man, I didn't care. I mean, not even a little bit did I care. It's fun existing in that universe. That's kind of the idea behind movies and sequels. But sequels should get better. Each movie should get better than the movie before it, or at least equal it. And I'll give you a good example. I like Star Wars. I thought Star Wars was excellent. I liked Empire Strikes Back even better. And Return of the Jedi, I enjoyed it, but not as much as Empire Strikes Back. Empire Strikes Back completely encapsulated everything about the Star Wars universe, and I thought it was fantastic. But going from The Matrix to part 2, you're just like, And then part 3 was so self-indulgent, man. It was really, really hard to watch it. I got through it because I like to finish things, but couldn't wait for it to end, man. I just could not wait for this to be over. And when you get to that point in your entertainment cycle, I think it's fair to say that you're not entertained. We are not entertained. I just want to see it through because I've committed so much of my time and my life and my thought to this series. But if it's not a top 5, man, I'd say that it's easily recognized the world over. I mean, people have heard of The Matrix. People are familiar with The Matrix. It's like Shawshank Redemption. 24/7, 365 on some channel, Shawshank Redemption is playing. It is a very, very, very iconic movie. But I would argue that you don't need a Shawshank Redemption 2. We made it. All right, we got it. Andy got away, met up with Red, and everything was good. But I don't think we need a part 2 for it. Just going to kind of leave it there. All right, guys. I'm going to be watching this thing here all day, reason that I'm doing the politics and the headhunting that's going up there in the federal government right now is because it's causing a lot of unsurety, insecurity. It's causing a lot of issues. And those issues are going to affect the major power players that are out here in this environment, that are out here in our world now. That's your BlackRock, your Grayscales, so forth and so on. I saw something like BlackRock is filing for a Cardano ETF. And I had to ask why. I mean, I get Bitcoin, I get Ethereum, but they're like, well, we want a Cardano. I'm like, why? There ain't that much over there, man. Passionate community, really, really strong community. But the wallet, they're one of their big wallets, Eternal. I don't think Toots really watches this anymore, but the Eternal wallet over there is clunky, man. It is not good. And I don't get it. I'm not quite getting that one. I hope it works out for them. I hope it does, and it's going to fly away and everybody's going to want ADA and yeah. But aside from them selling tokens, they really don't have that much else to sell. And that's a problem. I mean, it's very crypto, but that's a problem. So anyway, guys, I think I'm a couple minutes early here. I'm going to go ahead and wrap up. I'm going to spend the next few hours making my wireless audio work. I have to. Look, man, they're good microphones. Maybe I didn't have it tuned in well enough. Maybe I didn't have it going set right through the Yamaha. Maybe it's not right on my mouth, something. But I'm going to spend that playing it because I want to go back to wireless because I like to move around. And I literally built out this studio so that I could move around. And I want that to happen again. So that's my goal. And if I can get it dialed up tonight, it'll be a different show. Me and Bella are going to be back live, 1800 Central. I'm going to try to get one of the Jackal guys on. That's my goal for the day, is to get one of the Jackal guys on now. App after app after app. They are shipping, rolling, making this product better and better and better. And it's nice to be able to talk about something positively. Jackal is definitely doing exactly what they need to be doing. And I think they should be able to take a bow. So yeah, I'd love to get them on here. Plus I have some questions, so I'll see what I can do. No promises, but I will see what I can do. That's it, guys. Any questions or comments, Scott at ThePodocasts.com. I answer any and all of them. If you have anything specific that you want to get into, Bella at ThePodocasts.com, and she'll certainly get those answered for you. So that's it. Until tonight, 1800 Central. Please stay safe. Please be smart with your money, guys. And let me see if I can find my end show. And we'll see you. Cheers. We are dropping new videos and podcasts every Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday. And be sure to look for us on Instagram, Twitter, and Parler at ThePodocasts. Also, visit our page at ThePodocasts.com, all one word, for all of our most current content.